Om Shri Ganeshaya Namo Namah. Greetings to everyone world over. We extend a very warm welcome to our brothers and sisters across the globe. Green morning, green afternoon, and green evening. That's why the canvas of this particular digital program and so-called the global webinar is also green. So let's talk green, let's think green, let's work out green, and let's have something futuristic green. Ladies and gentlemen, International Chamber for Service Industry extends a very warm welcome to all of you. We are in partnership with the UNESCO and Media Entertainment Skill Council, and we have taken all the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. This morning, this afternoon, this evening, we extend a very warm welcome. Professor P.B. Sharma, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Amity University, Gurugram, past President, Association of Indian Universities, and founder Vice Chancellor of Delhi Technical University. Professor M.P. Punyaji, I had a brief discussion with him, the Vice Chairman, AICT Government of India. He is preparing certain documents and conveyed little difficulty, but still he'll try. Dr. J.S. Rajputji, Padma Shri Awardee, UNESCO, Director, NCRT, Founder Chairman of the National Council for Teacher Education. Dr. Mrs. Pankaj Mittal, Secretary General, Association of Indian Universities. Dr. Nageshwar Ravji, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Indira Gandhi National Open University, New Delhi. Dr. Amita Dev, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Indira Gandhi Delhi Technical University for Women. Professor S.S. Patnaik ji, Director, National Institute of Technical Teachers Training and Research. Dr. R.K. Khandelwalji, former Vice Chancellor, Uttar Pradesh Technical University and President and R&D, Glycol Limited. Shri Mohit Soni, the CEO, Media Entertainment Sector Skill Council, who is doing a great work, particularly in the digital technology and bringing entertainment and education together under the aegis of Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship, Government of India. We would have a golden triangle coming from United States. With great respect, I extend a very warm welcome to Raj Vedamji, the senior principal engineer at Aveva, USA. If we all know that Aveva is the global leadership in software to optimize the performance, he's working a great technocrat work. And there's a great to pick up from him last time when we deliberated on artificial intelligence in education ecosystem. Professor Vivek Shankar Natarajanji from Lamar University, USA, is towards entrepreneurship, operations, management, and how education to be made more economical. We would also be joined by Dr. Priya, who is going to be talking about neurocoach and mental health and wellness related areas. We extend a very hearty welcome to all the distinguished guests and dignitaries. Let me set the context. Ladies and gentlemen, ICSI is connected with the 31 million overseas Indians, and we are proud to share that since 1994, for the last 28 years, we are onto this journey, and we are grateful to late Honorable Prime Minister of India, Atal Bihari Vajpayee ji. In the November 2002, he held a meeting, and 2003, there was a Pravasi Bharatiya Divas. During this pandemic, we have been focusing on making education relevant. Our chamber deals with service industry. We focus on that. We are grateful to Honorable Present Finance Minister of India, Nirmala Sitharaman ji. Earlier, when she was with the Commerce and Industry, our chamber closely worked with the ministry for identifying the 12 services sector which India should focus to have the future leverages. Thereafter, we moved to micro, small, and medium enterprise because focus was on manufacturing, how to shift to services sector. And we are grateful to ministry. And we are grateful to present finance minister because on 13th of May, she announced that here onward, the MSME definition is going to change. Micro, small, and medium enterprise, when we talk about services sector, will be now at par with manufacturing sector. When I go back and when I look back, I'm grateful to IGNOU's Vice Chancellor. Way back in 1988, we made a request to them That time from the IHM Hotel Management Institute, it used to be diploma. I was the first Indian Army officer, having done my master's and PhD in service industry, moved on deputation to the Ministry of Tourism, Government of India, and we were setting up the National Institute for Travel and Tourism at that point of time. And IGNU was kind enough to consider the request of the ministry. The diploma got converted into degree, what you see in IHMs today. I'm also grateful the UGC gave an opportunity and we drafted India's first MBA tourism curriculum way back in 1990, and that was introduced across India. I owe back a lot to the uniform. I'm grateful to Lieutenant General K.M. Seth, former Adjutant General of Indian Army and former Governor of Tripura, Madhya Pradesh and Chhattisgarh. Tomorrow evening, 8 o'clock, he's coming as a guest. He gave me an opportunity to set up for the Indian Army, the Hotel Management and the Catering Technology Institute that was in Bangalore. And of course, UGC gave us an opportunity, bachelor and master degree programs, all related to services sector. We brought India's first finishing school way back in 1994 for the service industry. And we are proud to share with you today, when you open AICT's website, when you have the first page being opened, under the education vertical down, you can see a concept of finishing school, which is a part of RUSA, Rashtriya Uttar Shiksha Abhiyan. We are really very, very happy. Through this particular finishing school, we could send 52,000 children abroad and almost groom 35,000 teachers all these years. Pandemic, again, challenges and opportunities together. When 1.65 billion children were away from schools and colleges, we jumped in and we took on, right from the morning till evening, 6 webinars per day, teachers and youth empowerment. The only thing is, the brick and mortar finishing school has gone totally digital now and has taken the route of e-Gurukul Inspirational Lab. We lost during this pandemic one of our close friends, Sir Ken Robinson, along with many other souls. Our condolences to those families, but at the same time, in education vertical, because the results come in a longer time, so people do not see how it is to be focused. So when we used to discuss with Sir Ken Robinson, he always told there are 4 purposes of education: economic, social, cultural, and personal. How much do the countries spend on education? Because this program is going live, I am not reading out, I'm not spending time on this. You can see any point of time what portion of the GDP is being spent by countries as far as education priority is concerned. How much countries are spending on research and development in education? This also we are sharing. Now the youth, they are highly dynamic. They need interactive brand of education. Dr. Sugata Mitra, the hole in the wall, evolution of learning environment, and how the higher education now has to double mandate, use the technology effectively to enhance the learning process and to prepare the students for the workplace and society globally. Technology makes more technology possible. Too much of change in too short a time. Change is too fast. It's becoming so difficult to assimilate all that, but change is inevitable. Speed is future. Are we prepared? How are we preparing? It's coming like a tsunami, because digital transformation is the buzzword which we all have to see. There are 9,043 Edtech startups in India in 2021. And you'll be happy to know there are more than 5 lakh educational apps available today, which children can enjoy on their mobile phones. Great regards to Honorable Prime Minister of India, the new education policy after 34 years, the beginning of the new era, 29th of July 2020. And at the same time, we got to think, rethink, package, repackage, whatever has to be done in India's higher education scenario. We all will discuss when there are 1,032 honorable vice chancellors along the universities in India. Honorable Finance Minister, she gave the digital leap while presenting the budget and 5 things focused on education. Of course, out of 5 things, we are focusing on tonight, this morning, this afternoon, on digital university, which has been announced in the budget and thereafter addressed by the Honorable Prime Minister and all other dignitaries. Amrit mantra of the digital education and dynamic skilling. Remember, nothing remains forever. Everything does change. It has to change. Future strategies in education, role of technology and technologies, making education relevant, global perspective, how are we moving? ICSI's focus is making education relevant, giving the global skills, because there is going to be an aging population world over. India can fill those gaps. At the same time, focus on services exports. So this is something is the home page of the ICSI web portal. When you see it over here with the non-resident Indian, we have developed this entire thing. And I'm grateful to Professor Dr. Vivek Shankar Natarajan and my entire team and my president based out of Woodbury University, California, all the way who is joining this program. Whatever your mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. Let's come together. Let's make education and skill relevant. This program is going live on the YouTube world over. Almost 131 countries we have sent across the invite. And we have completed 1,504 webinars non-stop during this pandemic. And today we move on this journey forward. We extend a very warm welcome to our distinguished guests. It's a pleasure. They have been very kind to spare their valuable time, and they are going to share their vision and their expertise with us. With these words, ladies and gentlemen, join me in extending a very warm welcome to the dignitaries. Those are joining us from the world over. And I hand over to Professor P.B. Sharmaji, who is the Sutradhar and who is the maker of today's evening. I hold him in a great credit because he took a lot of efforts to bring everybody together on a common platform to share the vision and to take the journey forward. Digital education, our present opportunities, challenges, and how we all got to move on in the road ahead. And I made a very special request to my NRI friends, because our brothers and sisters, those are joining from overseas, it's an early morning for them. Like Professor P.B. Sharmaji will give the opening remarks, I requested Dr. Raj Vedamji, who is an authority and who is technical technology expert, to give the final remarks. I would request Professor P.B. Sharmaji to kindly start the program, and thereafter we'll bring everybody. We'll have 2 rounds. First round, 5 to 6 minutes. Second round, then we will work out. We have also been joined by Dr. J.S. Rajputji. I hold him in a great respect because his contribution to the humanity, it is not only NCRT, he's the founder chairman because it's a teacher who shaped the world. And that is when you talk about National Council for Teacher Education, he's the founder chairman of that organization as well. With these words, Professor P.B. Sharmaji.
Thank you so much indeed, Dr. Gulshan Sarma Sahab, for your very effective introductory presentation. We are truly delighted to be with you this evening, along with our very distinguished panelists, my Vice Chancellor colleagues from India, the educationists from USA and other countries, and I'm so happy that the program is going live around the world. Having said this, let me say at the outset that we all are meeting at a highly opportune time when the whole world is trying to understand a much bigger meaning and purpose of digital university or digital education for that region. That too at a time when a major disruption to our formal education has recently happened during the COVID-19 time. We all are truly aware about it. But without going back to the clock as it was before pandemic, let me look at now the value and worth of digital university and what it can do to solve some of the nagging problems with which we were all confronted in the education sector around the world. The problem of access the problem of quality and problem of relevance, in my opinion, hold an important agenda in the dissemination of education in all countries. In a country like India, we are conscious that there are 660 million youngsters below the age of 25 who look at people like us in the universities to equip and empower them with the knowledge that will make them empowered with the desired knowledge and skill so much needed to lead a human life full of dignity and honor on planet Mother Earth. For a very long time, the meaning and purpose of education has been understood in our country to prepare a man to be truly human, as well as empowered and equipped with the kind of mindset, as well as the knowledge and skills that allow him to lead a dignified and blissful life of good 100 years. The purpose of education is not merely to serve the cause of employability, as has been understood in the modern times. Largely, the purpose of education was to make a man in true sense human, so that the dimensions of character and human ethos of truthfulness, peace, harmony, and compassion towards one and all, and treating this whole world as one family are also assimilated alongside with specialized skills and knowledge sets of the kind that we all require today to trade and transact in this world of information and technology-driven, connected, beautiful world which we have with us. Today, it's very important for us to examine how and how can the digital university idea can fulfill the aspirations of our people here as well as around the world for offering quality education that will empower millions and millions more than what we did so far with our conventional universities and conventional systems of education. We all are aware the great work which has been done by Open University in India in enhancing the access of higher education to millions more. But we are also quite conscious and careful that unless the education is imparted in a manner that it creates that vital understanding of the subject matter and empowers an individual with the depth of knowledge and its relevance and its preparation to connect that knowledge to the workplace where he or she performs or for the usefulness in the society, the knowledge is of no value. I do not want millions to be merely possessing degrees of the university and then crying that the knowledge they have acquired is of no use for them. I do not want access to education merely per se, but I want to also ensure that millions and millions of our countrymen who could not come to the university because of the financial hardship, because of the locational disadvantage, because of the social circumstances, are also allowed to come into the mainstream with the help of digital education. But I'm here, and I'm sure my vice chancellors of my country, some of them are already here. Professor Nageshwar Rao sir is here, Professor J.S. Rajput sir is here, who had been Chancellor of NCERT University, Dr. Amita Dev, who is the Vice Chancellor of Indira Gandhi Delhi Technological University for Women is here. Professor R.K. Khandal, my colleague who had been Vice Chancellor of UP Technical University are here, and many more who are connected as a distinguished panel in this program, must examine how we can now put our heads and mind together to make a much bigger meaning and purpose and sense of digital university for not only for India, but for that region, for countries around the world. I, for one, for example, believe that if with utmost sincerity and devotion, the power of connectivity and power of mind of the people who are involved in education is utilized, then we should be in a position to put together before the community of the world education on digital platform that will make a much bigger sense than merely chalk and board in the classroom. I give you an example. When I go and see a movie on the screen in India, I remember it whole life, because the producer has taken tremendous amount of care to package that movie in a manner that it impacts my mind, heart, and soul. And I'm still able to remember the songs of very many films which I have watched in the cinema here as well as in the residence of my elder son who lives in America. But here, do not forget the kind of care and concern with which the whole content is prepared and delivered to you makes such a big impact on the mind of an individual that up to the last breath of life, he or she will remember. They would walk like the hero and heroine. They will talk like hero and heroine. They would like to dress like hero and heroine. They would like to sing those songs wherever the opportunity is. Likewise, can you put together digital education through a digital university, make it available to the millions and millions more than what you would otherwise do in a closed environment of a university campus? Can you put together the best of the brains from all over the world and bring them to the digital university to produce the contents as well as deliveries of the kind that will make a profound meaning and purpose of education? I, for one, believe that it can be done, but the sincerity of purpose with which the digital universities are to be configured with, are to be put together, and the way they are to be operated and run, in my opinion, need to be given a serious thinking. I would have liked the quality of the education of the kind that IITs provide as far as the academic and research environment is concerned. I would have liked the sincerity and purpose of the kind of ancient gurukuls of India provided to men making in their gurukuls to be put together with the help of the new digital platform and new digital technologies to offer education that would make a much bigger and meaning and purpose for everyone who comes to the university for the degree. It is doable, it should be done, and the time has come to utilize this great opportunity and meet the challenges, not only of employability, but of building the people of competence and caliber and character who will go out into the society, not only will solve the problems that we have today, but would also be ready to solve the problems of the future by employing their power of mind and their wisdom with head and heart and soul to serve the society and the planet to which we all belong to. With these words, I extend a very warm welcome to my highly distinguished panel of honorable vice chancellors from India, educationists from abroad, and to all my distinguished friends who are here together on the invitation of myself as well as Dr. Gulshan Sarmaji. Gulshan Sarmaji, thank you very much for giving us this opportunity to be with you at a time when we all are trying to configure and imagine the role of digital university. And remember what I said, I do not want simply another open university in the name of digital university. I want the very best education to be offered without any financial burden to the millions and millions of people here. As I said, 660 million youngsters are waiting to be given the higher education of the kind which the world requires here in India and millions more abroad. And therefore, the sincerity of purpose, the commitment and devotion to digital university that the government of India has announced, in my opinion, requires total and unconditional commitment to the cause of quality and relevance of higher education to be put together, utilizing the power of connectivity, power of mind, and power of networking through which we would like to deliver this important task. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. I will come and intervene in between if I find that I need to, but I extend a very warm welcome to my distinguished panel to share their thoughts and mind and give us the idea how best we can put our foot forward to get the idea of digital university going. Thank you so much indeed, Dr. Gulshan Sarmaji. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Vice Chancellor, sir. May I extend a very warm welcome to Dr. G.S. Rajputji and thereafter Dr. Nageshwar Ravji. And this is the intro round. We will come back once again for the final finale and the closing remarks. Dr. G.S. Rajputji, you got to unmute your mic, sir. Ho gaya, sir?
Professor Gulshan Sharma, Dr. P.V. Sharma, my distinguished colleagues who are present in this conclave. I'm indeed very happy to be with all of you. I'm indeed very happy to be with all of you on a particular idea that is taking shape in the current scenario the scenario that is developing in the country after the National Education Policy 2020. But being an old timer, I cannot resist talking of certain things which give me the experience and perhaps could be very relevant to all of us, to those who would be really implementing the idea of the digital university. Because experience counts. We have the experience. We implemented two major educational policies in 1968, 1986. And in 1968, or prior to 1968, after the independence, our major focus was access in school education. We were not worried at that time about the higher education. We wanted to provide, because there was a constitutional mandate. Every child, children till they attain 14 years of age, that was the sentence, that was the directive to the government. They were supposed to do it within 10 years. But I will not go into it. There were 3 stages, and they applied to every stage. The stages were participation, first one, access, and then after a couple of years, 10, 12 years, it was found that the enrollment doesn't indicate anything. There may be an enrollment of 100%, or as they say, GER may be higher than 100%. I have seen in the ministry enrollments of 120% or more than this. And I was amazed because I was new to the ministry, and they explained to me, no, sir, this is perfectly all right, overage and underage, etc. Then this was the second point, participation. Does the child stay? And then came the attainments. And this attainment thing got emphasis only in the 86 and 92 policies. Now, all these 3 apply to the higher education. And now we have a tremendous amount of rush. The way Delhi University admits 99% and 99.5% indicates the issues that are before the nation, before the policy, and before the digital university that we shall be setting up. And therefore, we have to go into those things as to how it will really be set up. Exactly 40 years ago, I went in a delegation of Government India to USSR, and we went to see a system in Leningrad, now is St. Petersburg again. So they said, if we open a school or a college within the premises, this municipal board or corporation of the Leningrad, for 24 months, we do not enroll anyone. First 12 months are devoted to building construction, purchase of equipment. Teachers join after 12 months. And then they prepare the materials, the equipment, the demonstrations. They practice, they are seen by senior officers. And after 24 months, the children come to this. I have seen, when I was working in states, chief ministers announcing in the month of October that a college has been sanctioned, it will start functioning after 10 days. And the candidates are examined. Professor Sharma has pointed out the most important aspect of digital university. I think one of the biggest challenges is that of quality and credibility. Correspondence courses, see, they began in mid-60s for training teachers. They were initiated by the NCERT. The universities grabbed them, some of them, and they started huge amount of correspondence courses. When I became the chairperson of the NCTE, the academics in the concerned areas were very much worried. And because of the pressure on the government, the National Council for Teacher Education was created. There were universities which were running, enrolling 40,000. And I think this is very relevant. 40,000 with 3 faculty members. A very famous university I'm referring to. And when the UGC found out what are they doing about the quality, other things, how are they spending the fee they charge, it was established that about 28% was being spent on programs. The rest was being spent on building construction and purchase of ACs and cars, all those, we know all that. That story is known to everybody. Now, that thing continues. And sadly enough, even in 2012, a committee of Justice J.S. Verma said that 10,000 teacher training institutions. You are talking of digital university, but I think this is very necessary to know what is the pedestal on which it will be built up. 10,000 teacher training institutions are selling degrees, they are not in quality, and they were all sanctioned by the NCT. This is our problem, whether it is medical education, whether it any, or whether it is open and distance learning in any shape. Therefore, the credibility of the correspondence courses declined. The credibility of even regular courses declined. The credibility of teacher provision declined. And the National Open School. What a big boon, ray of hope it brought everybody. But schools did what they are normally expected to do. The result is none of us are willing to treat an open school graduate on par with somebody who has done a CBSE plus 2 or 12. This is a reality. We must accept it. So the first challenge before the digital university should be achieve focus on quality, achieve acceptance in the market and amongst the people. And number 3, you have to ensure that the compatibility is established. If there we are a loser, then the whole experiment will go the other way than our expectations. My simple thing is that we are at a stage which I think I might mention, I normally mention it repeatedly. This is the century of pace of change. If the earlier century was century of change, this is the century of pace of change. Nobody knows what will be the shape of institutions or even equipments like computer and this after 6 months or 12 months. So you have to be alert. Lifelong learning, that concept is now accelerated. I have a feeling that digital university should be accelerating the whole process of moving towards quality. Because if from day one they are concerned about quality and credibility and acceptability, it will impact other institutions also, because this university will be connected with so many other colleges. And it will achieve this only by taking expertise from everywhere and developing its models in the blended learning, because the face-to-face learning, one hopes and one expects, will continue all along. Its shape may change, proportions may change. And towards this, I often find 2 things. When the computers came, we know how people were reluctant even to touch the computers. If I remember correctly, my earlier years, I used to read the physics education and so many things associated with physics, because I did my doctorate in physics. I think it was physics education from UK, in which there was an article, illiterate governments. So naturally, it attracted my attention and I read it very thoroughly. And there was a mention that in 1984 or 83,
84, yeah.
In United States, a syllabus was prepared with the title Computer Education for the Syllabus for Computer Terrifieds. Computer Terrifieds, because there was a group there also. Oh, computers, no. In our case, in early 90s, people said, no, this will bring unemployment. It did not. Now everybody wants to be there. The point is, people would love to be a part of this university, to benefit from this university. It can enhance quality. It can provide opportunity to girls and their education, getting higher other degrees. It can prepare quality materials for so many institutions in this country. It can develop a strengthful competition, a healthy competition for preparation of quality materials for online education.
Yeah.
All these things can be done, they should be done. And therefore, the last point is, when we did research, and I think Professor Sharma may also recall, the connectivity. The young researchers of today may not believe that it was impossible to get a research paper published, say, this month, within the next 1 or 2 months. You write a note, If you are lucky to know, then request for a paper, it will come by sea mail, air mail. This is how we did our research. It was impossible to imagine that if I send a letter to you, sir, I will get a reply within minutes.
Yes, sir.
This is something that must be aware of. So a culture of expediency is also required. Acceleration is required. Quality is required. Credibility is required. And the last point, you have to have faculty members. For the last 2 decades, the situation in the universities has been miserable so far as the availability of the faculty is concerned. You cannot enhance the quality or credibility, I say both, in any system. If you do not have the faculty, you cannot achieve that with guest lecturers and lecture paid individuals who are always uncertain about their future. So I would suggest, I refer to Leningrad experiment. Now I am referring to present position. The essence of this is delay the establishment of the university, but let the faculty be there first. Otherwise, we have seen the fate of so many institutions, and it is time to recall how additional IITs were established and how they were thrust upon the existing IITs who were already short of 40 to 50% faculty members.
And the point is, sir, well taken, and we are really grateful
This
to you
must
for
be
raising
stopped.
this very important issue of credibility. Credibility is something which must be on the top of the agenda for the planners as well as those who are involved in digital university. You are absolutely right that without having a credible system which is able to put on plate the quality of education that will serve the purpose that is required today, we will be failing miserably. But let me also say with all humility that today we are in a position of advantage. If I do not have faculty, for example, of the kind which I require in a particular discipline, I can reach out to anybody across the world and connect him to my university to fill that void. That's the power of connectivity. That's the power of today's actually new knowledge systems which we have. And therefore, I think the digital university, in my opinion, if it is properly configured with all sincerity and devotion, keeping credibility as the most important feature, I think the promise can be delivered to the millions and millions of our people as well as around the world. And
this is correct, very correct, Professor Sharma. But the issue is, when I say,
sir,
I say the teacher-taught ratio, in whatever way people interpret it, if they say that no, there is no shortage, I would be very happy. I would accept it. But the point is, when you keep on saying the vice chancellors, the directors, everybody says I'm short of faculty by 40%, by 60%, then someone like me will have to say this.
yes.
Yeah, this is between the institutions and those who manage them. Right? Some managers may be able to do this.
We'll come back to this point, that role of regulators for a digital university. We'll examine this aspect. We would like you to give some concrete suggestions of what can be done to keep the quality right and to ensure credibility remains as the hallmark of the university. But we wish to plead with folded hand that the advantage technology and advantage connectivity and the advantage power of mind, which is now available to be connected. Today, for example, Gulshan Sarmaji was able to connect all of us without much effort and without much expenditure. So tomorrow it should be possible to get the best volunteers of the kind which we are to put.
I have a point, Professor Sharma. I need 1 minute.
Sir.
When there was no connectivity, to which I referred when we were research scholars, the first instruction given to us was, your first research publication should be the best international journal of your area. Today, with API coming in, now we have maximum connectivity. We have the API and we have huge number of publications. But about quality, I need not make an observation. So we have moved ahead on certain curves, but we have also come down on certain curves. Therefore, connectivity is not all that positive. We have to see there are other factors also, and they should also be examined. In university, you need interactions, you need laser, you need so many things. Now, if you call people just give a lecture or give something from anywhere, the best of the persons, very fun, that's very useful. But then declare it that this is the ratio we need, this is online, this is offline, and therefore we are well equipped and country has no problem on which.
Point is well taken,
Thank
sir.
you, sir.
Point is well
Thank
taken.
you. Thank you.
Point is well taken, sir.
Thank
And
you.
all the points which you have mentioned, they are so useful. Focus on quality, acceptance in the market, comparability is to be established, and pace of change to be seen. And a couple of other points which you have given, I have taken all of them. We put it into, and they are really very, very useful. With these words, could I move on to Dr. Nageshwar Rawji, the Honorable Vice Chancellor, IGNOU, and thereafter Dr. Amita Dev Madam.
Good evening to all of you. First of all, I thank Professor P.B. Sharma ji, Professor Gulshan Sharma ji, who has given me an opportunity to be with you this evening. My respectful regards to Professor J.S. Rajput ji also, who has already set the specific issues to which we all have to look into it. For example, when he said that we have to look at our credibility, we have to think in terms of the quality. And these are the two basic concerns which we have to see when we are going for a digital university in the country. I am just stating some of the facts which are available with respect to our own country. Right now, there are three states which are going for this digital universities. One is Kerala, which has already come up with, they are converting this, one of their IITM institute into this digital university. Other one is at Mumbai. They are also planning for that. And the third one is at Rajasthan, Jodhpur. But they all are in the initial stages. Before that, we must see that what is our regulatory framework. We do have our regulatory framework of 2018, online regulations. It has come up in 2018. Before that, some IITs, even IGNOU also, they were going for some online programs. They are somewhat digital, but the online programs were there. But they were being stopped, especially for the open universities. And then in 2018, we have got the regulations. And till today, around 58 institutions, 58 higher education institutions, including some of the public universities, they are being permitted to go for these online programs. More than 300 online programs, they have been permitted to go for it. This is the background against which we all have to think about the future of this digital university. Then once we see that in 2016, we have got our SWAYAM platform. And this is of Ministry of Education. Then in that, we are having 3,000 courses. Free enrollment is there. And around 2 crore people, they registered on that. But as far as the examination part is concerned, only insignificant people, even less than 1 lakh, they appeared in those examinations. But that is a platform which has been created by the Government of India in digital way. Of course, it is on the same lines as we are having the Coursera and the Edtech. They were very popular, but during this COVID-19, our SWAYAM platform has also become the popular. Then we are having the Swayamprabha channels from 2017. 33 Swayamprabha channels, they have been started. And the quality of initial videos, they were not good, but later on the efforts were made to improve the quality as well as the translation of these videos. They were also being initiated. These these courses, they are related to the humanities, social sciences, engineering, management. This is the spectrum. Around 3,000 courses, they are being going on. And the channels, they are being earmarked to IITs, to the UGC, the CEC, even the IGNOU also. So, and NIOS, they all were given these channels. Recently, a month back in the budget itself, the number of channels, it has gone up to 200 channels. And that has been specifically focusing to the school and primary education. The efforts were on to see that these channels, they may be used for the teaching learning process, and that too in the mother tongues. And that is why all the scheduled languages, they are being considered for the conversion of our teaching learning process into the mother tongues. Translation part, it is also going on in a big way. Now, once we see that we have to go for a digital university, these 2018 regulations, it has been somewhat made changes in 2020. And in 2021 also, some changes were made, and recently they were put on the public domain to seek your comments. Around 10 significant changes they have been made. And the last date, it was, I think, 15th of March or so, that the lots of suggestions they have been received to see the proposed changes which are in the ODL and online, especially the online regulations, that how to go for it. Now, once we see the existing available resources, because we do have also the NTA, National Testing Agency, which is conducting big tests, and that has been set up in 2018. It has also gone a big way to have our SWAYAM tests, SWAYAM examinations is also being conducted. Then other examinations are also being carried on by this NTA. So NTA, digital, objective type, SWAYAM, digital, SWAYAM Prabha is also digital, reaching to the doorstep of the learners. We are having the online regulations. Few state governments, they also come up with their own way of looking at the digital programs. Because the online regulations, they say that the technical courses, they're not being permitted to go for digital. But the Kerala University, it has gone for the digital programs for those areas also. So still the things are moving at a faster pace. Now, how to go for it? There are three different approaches which are being found all over the globe with respect to these digital universities. One is to have a fresh approach, totally fresh institution, it may go for it. And it may take the help of Edtech companies, and thereby the reach with all the basics which has been outlined by Professor Rajput, credibility, quality, even affordability also that can be taken care of, and access, and element of employability, if that is being taken into account, then that sort of things they have to be kept in mind with the available resources. Because right now our budget speech, it talks about that this digital university, it will be in hub and spoke model. We have to select the best available courses from all the available institutions. And those institutions, their courses will be put on that digital university and they will be made available to the learners. We also know that we are having the National Digital Library, which is having around more than 2 to 3 crore books in digital form. So available resources are there and we can have a fresh institution going for that. Second option is go for consortium approach, for which also a good number of countries, they have gone for it. Canadian Virtual University, this Korea Virtual Campus. In that case, what we can do is, we can have the collaboration with these institutions like SWAYAM, SWAYAM Prabha, NTA, NDL, and maybe 1 or 2 IITs, or maybe the Open University. So with these collaborations also, we can go for this consortium approach. And the third one is, initially we may go for a project in one of the institutions, available IITs, or maybe at any other place, where the initial planning and groundwork, it should be there. And then we must go for the establishment of a digital university. This is what initially I wanted to share with you in the initial introductory remarks. Thank you very much.
Absolutely important. And I think what you said towards the end is important, that you have several options. But the important point here, I thought the panel may keep in mind that we are in a new age today. And this new age gives us autonomy of learning. That means freedom to learn what we want to learn and from where we want to learn. I have no objection on that part. I'm free to learn from anywhere in the world and even achieve the certificates of learning, which I have learned. But the privilege to award the degree is a very important privilege and cannot be kept open merely as an autonomy of awarding the degree. So massification of higher education need not necessarily be massification of awarding of the degree, because we have seen a lot of examples in the past where hundreds and thousands of universities overnight can come up. So we have to ensure that the privilege to award the degree still remains as a privilege after due certification of the quality, its relevance, its employability, and indeed the kind of credibility which Dr. Rajput has mentioned. So I think we need to think in the right direction to see how to propagate the freedom to learn, but at the same time regulate the privilege to award the degree in a manner that no wrong is committed in terms of massification of the degrees, and tomorrow we cry, what have we done for it? That's the challenge. But let's hear what the learned panel has to say on this channel. I have several other challenges in front of me. I'll come back in a minute when after listening to one or two more interventions. Dr. Gulshan Sarmaji.
Thank you. Dr. Nageshwar Ravji, wonderful, because those three models which you have given, that will give further research. And at present, 1.4K people are watching from the world over. And I'm very happy to share with the global audience, 127 countries advisors are with us. And that is from the chamber, and they all are dealing with the education vertical. And I'm so grateful to them. Professor Vivek Shankar Natarajan has put in his heart and soul for this program. And we want to make it very, very active. Thank you. Dr. Amita Dev, ma'am, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Indira Gandhi Delhi Technical University for Women. And thereafter, I would request Professor S.S. Patnaik ji, because you are training at present National Institute of Technical Teachers Training and Research, which was Dr. J.S. Rajput sir's concern. So I would request you, and thereafter we will have Dr. R.K. Khadil. Please, Madam, kindly take over.
Thank you very much. A very good evening to all the eminent panelists. Thank you so very much, Professor Sharma, for setting the context for digital universities of the new age opportunities and challenges. Indeed, a very appropriate topic of discussion today evening. Definitely, digital technologies, as rightly said earlier also, it has become a part of our life. And hence, we need to reimagine even our teaching learning processes and how our future universities will be perceived by the society in general. As rightly said, critical thinking, creativity, cognitive ability of the student has to be given topmost priority, along with the quality, credibility, which has been spoken. Today, there are many students who need to acquire new skills, even if they are in the job, or they have to be relevant in the job. Digital universities will provide an opportunity to them to be relevant in their job roles. Now, time has come how university can become relevant by recalibrating their functionality so that they can resonate with the aspiration of these students. I will put up some of my concerns. Why digital university? We are talking about 27% GER and making 27% to 50% GER in 15 years, which would essentially mean 10 million more students in higher education needs to be provided with adequate infrastructure to ensure quality teaching learning. Another segment which needs reskilling, upskilling, we need to unlearn to learn new things. As said, we are in an era of disruptive technologies where we do not know how much pace we need to keep with this technology, because after every 3 months, some new technology is coming. Similarly, these digital universities will provide a forum where a person in the job, they need a reskilling, upskilling for the trajectory of their career path to meet the contemporary needs of the industry. Also, my concern is that more than 60% institutions, which may amount to roughly 25,000 institutions, they witness enrollment as of today, which is less than 500 students, primarily because they're situated at remote areas. One of the predominant reasons could be lack of trained and qualified faculty, which is required to disseminate the knowledge. I truly agree with my earlier panelist who clearly talked about right kind of faculty. And maybe because of the right kind of faculty is not there, limited courses are being offered and the infrastructure is not being used effectively. It's very, very crucial to address these issues upfront in terms of GR of tribal and rural population. And also, I come from a women STEM university and addressing so that more and more women and girls, they can come and participate and acquire higher education. Hence, to achieve 50% GER, a concentrated and concerted effort is required. Wholehearted effort is required to enhance the enrollment and active participation of rural segment. We are sitting in urban areas. We don't understand how much it becomes a challenge at a rural area when it comes down to pipe, it means the bandwidth and the digital infrastructure. So when we are talking of digital university, my concern goes to that rural area where the bandwidth and a digital infrastructure may be a concern. Must mention, I will just take 1, 2, 3 more minutes. edX, it witnessed an outstanding participation of Indian students. In fact, I was amazed when I read that outstanding enrollment of 1 lakh students, but a huge drop in the 3rd and 4th session. One factor which is very interesting to note is India is the 2nd highest user on edX after USA. But the dropout was significant. What is the takeaway from this? It means Indians are willing to learn. They are keen learners. And pandemic has also shown us. Also, if I look at the STEM education landscape, SWEM, it offers more than 1,000 courses from 100 organizations, and there are 25 lakh students which enroll for MOOC. Very interesting to note that 3.5 lakh students they write exam and only 2 lakh takes transfer of credits. Again, it indicates we Indians are very, very interested to learn. We want to upskill and reskill, but then why this downfall? Straight away from 25 lakh students to 2 lakhs who takes a transfer credit. Hence, there is a need of ecosystem which enables adoption of the courses, retention of the student, and ensure completion of the courses. We need to create an engaging, immersive experience. Gone is the time when we used to have an online education just running a PDF or a PPT. There is a dire need to move forward, embrace disruptive technologies like artificial intelligence, machine learning, deep learning, AR, VR, and mixed reality, and deploy them meaningfully while preparation of the content. Another suggestion is we need to have an adaptive learning content as per the need of the individual student. Let the student be having an education at any place, at any pace, at anywhere. Similarly, examination and assessment will need a leapfrog change where a learner himself can experience it. These critical aspects which need a firm roadmap and needs a collaborative effort, every stakeholder will play a crucial role. Now, as rightly pointed out, these digital universities, they can either work on a hub and spoke model, they can work on a consortium or on a project model. I personally feel a consortium of highly qualified institutions blended in a hub and spoke model will be a very, very good choice to begin with. And to ensure quality, we all are concerned about a quality. We definitely need an ecosystem which is to be established to have a great hand-holding for the student, a system which is robust. And now we are talking about support centers. As rightly said, research, how a digital university will take research forward, how it will happen. Virtual lab is a virtual lab, simulation lab is a simulation lab. You may be able to teach maybe history, geography, or computer science through the virtual labs. What will happen when I have to teach biology or I have to do medical experiments? It is the need of the hour to think about them, and maybe a robust support center will be needed where the lab experience will go beyond simulation and virtual labs. Need to remove excess barriers and ensure availability of pipe and digital infrastructure. This is my major concern. For any digital university to thrive, especially in India, where we are having people to collaborate from the rural sector, access to the pipeline and having availability of the digital infrastructure is something which is very, very important. Hence, digital university must envisage a born digital ecosystem, which is very, very modern, very, very welcoming. And the connectivity, it is all about government to provide the remotest location a connectivity. And I believe it will be the determining factor for success of digital university.
Thank you so much.
I will close here. I think I'll come back later once we'll discuss it further. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Amitaji, for such brilliant inputs. In fact, I asked my 2 grandsons this morning that I'm going to talk on digital university. One is in America, one is in India here. The American grandson said that do it surely for upskilling and skilling of those who are already in job. It will work wonders there. But the one in India said that it will also do wonders because it will add on to the quality and valuable inputs, in fact, beyond our classrooms and our conventional system. So both the grandsons are for it, one for initially for in-job training and upskilling of the workforce. Another one in India is surely seeing value of it. But the question I asked to my learned panel, that we are talking of digital university, why not a digital education revolution at the school level to begin with, which should have been followed up with digital university, or maybe two concurrent also. But without digital education revolution percolating the whole of India, if you simply roll out digital universities, I think the job will be half done, not fully done. And therefore, I think concurrently the government of India must roll out a very serious revolution in the name of digital school education. Then the digital university would make a bigger sense, because currently we all know that the quality of inputs coming from the school forms an important agenda for assuring the quality of higher education in any country. And therefore, I think we need to pay attention on that. But thank you so much, Dr. Amitaji, for very many valuable input. Thank you for your valuable time.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Two very important points which I take from Dr. Amita Dev ma'am. One is for the women, when she talked about, when Prime Minister is talking about the 5 trillion economy and everybody coming. Without women participation, they're getting skilled, they're getting educated, they're coming in an ecosystem in all verticals. It's not possible. It's not possible. And second part, which you touched on research. I think my friends from the United States, when they will talk about, they will take on that particular agenda. That's something is very important, which you have touched over there. Let me go to Professor S.S. Patnaik ji, who is joining us from Chandigarh. He is the director of the NITR. We extend a very warm welcome, National Institute of Technical Teachers Training and Research, because Dr. Rajput ji also made a mention. Teachers training is very important for all of us if we really want to develop the ecosystem in realistic terms. Professor S.S. Patnaik ji.
Namaskar.
Welcome
and
to
my
you,
gratitude to Major Gulshan Sharma ji is like my elder brother, a well-wisher of mine. In fact, when I look at the digital university requirement, it is already in place. Professor Nageswar Rao hinted about some countries, but if you see to the German model of digital university, Italy is supporting the research component, Czechoslovakia local components. Like that, they have picked up the best people, best country, and they have networked themselves this way that they are really impacting this situation now. So at this stage, thinking in a binary way, whether to have digital university or not to have digital university, obviously one is the answer that we have to have digital university. Now coming to the next point, intention of the learners. It is very clear. This generation, like Professor P.V. Sharma ji told, his grandson told, go for it, because they are the student of this era. They will demand for it, and they are already demanding for this. That is what already in the COVID period we have seen that. So therefore, the intention of the learner is very clear. We cannot run away from their intention. When it comes to the infrastructures, the doubt is already cleared. When I was struggling way back in 2004 to connect people in EduSat as a national coordinator for AICT, it was a big struggle for me to connect 104 technical institutes all around the country and convincing them. Subsequently, in 2012, when I launched this first social learning through Google Hangout, with taking 9 free nodes of Google Hangout, subsequently up to 30 nodes I connected, it was also a struggle for me to convince them, look, a social learning is also possible with this type of free open source tool. So when we created a YouTube channel of NCTL, NITR Chandigarh Technology Enabled Learning way back in 2013, today when I see 18.6 million viewership and 1.57 lakh subscribers are there without spending a single penny from my pocket. This institute is having a channel where US is the second highest viewer of my channel. So that gave us the strength that yes, these are the things which is possible. Before COVID, in fact, I signed a MOU with Bharatiya Sikhan Mandal to have a Ecolabiya University where we wanted to go for the virtual university or so-called the digital university for teachers training. And Asia specific country and African countries were my target. and all 4 knitter systems, I wanted them to be feeder of this particular university. So therefore, when I looked at the infrastructures, it is evolving, especially when 6G will be there. 5G is already creating a vibration. 6G is terrestrial, aerial, and maritime communications. So, and that to terahertz. So imagine the type of things like it is having a space station where you can really think of moving beyond this station to moon, Mars, anything. So that's the visualization I see for this digital university which is happening. So therefore, infrastructure is not an issue. There are a lot of us. We as Teachers Training Institute is our moral responsibility to show them the path that this can be spent, this cannot be spent. You can get it from the free open source tools which are available. There are people who can be part of your partnership. There are institutes who can be networked. So therefore, that is a requirement. The important thing which is required is like digital university will be a satellite. You'll have transponders, various transponder. Each transponder will address to natural issues like maybe engineering, natural science, ethics, values, so multiple transponder. And the ownership of the transponder will be the best player who will be putting that transponder there. Suppose like we 10 who are good at teachers training will be part of that transponder. Then we'll have multiple channel in each transponder. So the content of the channel, the delivery of the channel will decide the TRP of the channel. So therefore, the input, which Professor J.S. Rajput rightly told, the quality of the input is a real concern because it is not a physical to virtual mapping. This is the way the online education today is happening. It should not be in that mindset. If you have a AR/VR tool, I think I am not ending at AR/VR. I see holograph is also going to come. Another 5 years time, you'll see that you'll have holographs tool. Today it is costly, but Professor Gulshan Sharma will be sitting with me on my table and talking here. At the same time, he will be talking in US. So that's the type of infrastructure which is now coming in. So therefore, I see that this input preparation for this type of channel where your TRP is internationally going to compete requires champion professors. Those champion professors are to be brought in. They should be technically supported. Maybe the professors are embodied with all experience of life, but they are not technically to have those tools in front of them to put the AR/VR or holograph tools. So people like us who are well versed with these tools should be a support system for them. Then that type of verticals we should create, that the champion professor will be the content developer. The technology group will give you the technology support for that. And that's become the type of internationally competitive inputs we have to put in different channels. Then once that is done, then it comes to the delivery. Delivery, again, the instruction, it has to be engaging. It cannot be like that forced engagement in the class. Come, otherwise your attendance marks will be deducted. It is not. You cannot really force this generation participants to go for this type of bounding situation. Actually, I use a word always, not out of box, without box thinking, like don't have a boundary at all. A person like electromagnetic theory, who is I'm a person from antenna radar. For me, out of box is also a boundary for me. So I say what without box thinking. So therefore, this type of delivery mechanism are to be developed, and the proper person should be asked, because in a channel, anchorer matters a lot. So therefore, who is presenting? How is really presenting? That also matters. So therefore, when it goes to the international thing, so those people are available. So finally, automatically as a byproduct, the impact will come. Once you take care of the input and the instruction, both the things in a qualitative way, the impact will be visible. The advantage is that the national education policy demands for multidisciplinary education. This is the time that all such soft courses should be driven towards digital university. And those hard courses, I name this as the hard university, another is soft university. The soft university, hard university should not have a hard boundary. It should be a soft boundary so that easily the transformation is possible. Academic bank of credit should be recognized. Definitely one of the things which is required is standardization, accreditations. That benchmarking is required so that a cluster of A cannot be compared with cluster B. A cluster B cannot be compared with cluster of C. So therefore the degree will be labeled that if you get a certification from C Cluster Institute, your level of skilling, level of knowledge is up to this. So like in Cisco certification, we go certification level 1, 2, 3, that. So that's the way ultimately you can really count that this is the type of labeling certification is possible. So at this stage, I personally feel that digital university is an inevitable situation. We should not delay that because already the competitors are in the market, and therefore we should have to go for a fast forward mode. So for that, 3 mantras we have to accept. Partnership builds strength, networking creates wealth, and empowerment is the mantra of success for our this generation and the next generation. So therefore, these mantras we have to also follow. Thank you so much at this stage. Maybe I'll come in later stage.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's very, very meaningful, Professor Saab. And, particularly when you mention about intention of the learner, what a beautiful point you have given over there. And then, of course, you have given that instructions have to be engaging in a very stimulating and in a very, very rewarding way, which person enjoys. You give mobile phone or games to somebody, the child will not even ask for the breakfast or lunch. They would be so engaged and they will not disturb you. And I think Mohit Soni will come on to that later. Dr. R.K. Khandalji, former Vice Chancellor, UP Technical University and President, R&D Glycol, maybe humbly request you, Glycol.
India Glycol, sir.
Okay, ji, India Glycol.
Adharniya Professor P.B. Sharma ji, Professor J.S. Rajput ji, Professor Nageshwar Rao ji, Dr. Amita Dev Madam, Professor Raj Vedam sir, Professor Patnaik sir, Professor Vivek Shankar Natarajan ji, Shri Mohit Soni ji, and last but not the least, Major Dr. Gulshan Sharma ji. आप सबको प्रणाम करता हूँ. मेरे थोड़े से विचार थोड़े से भिन्न हैं और मैं चाहूँगा कि 5 मिनट शांति से आप लोग सुनेंगे तो मुझे बड़ा आनंद आएगा. सबसे पहला तो we should define what do we mean by university. Let us in this country, what do we understand by university? And then let us go next to it, digital university. Why we are talking about digital university? What has made us to think about it? And who has advised the Prime Minister and the government to go for digital university? Why? What was the compulsion? Then what are the boundary conditions or without boundary conditions at the moment, at what stage we are? In my opinion, in this country, we already have done so much damage to the education. We already are talking just now, somebody was talking, cluster A, cluster B, cluster C. We always talk education, IIT, NIT, engineering colleges, regional engineering colleges. We talk about technical education, non-technical education. I think all these categorizations, all these the classifications are very damaging. Now let me tell you how we are doing at the moment, and then let us think what do we mean by university. At the moment, if a child wants to take admission in IIT or NIT, every parent wants that their child should get into IIT, NIT, or All India Institute of Medical Sciences or a good medical college, if they are opting for technical education. What they do, 99.9% of them, they go for coaching, and Kota, for example, is one center where coaching is absolutely prospering. An engineering college in a state, in a district might be closing down, but coaching institutes are cropping up more and more. They are making good growth. Open the newspaper, the advertisements are by the coaching institutes. So what we have done lakhs of students will apply from across the country for admissions in IIT. Only select ones will pass NEET, will pass GATE, will get admission. Rest all, what will they do? They will go to, just now, for example, in Ukraine, 22,000 students came. Why did they go? Because we did not give them admission here. Okay, doesn't matter. We have this system. We did not give them admission. They went there. But what they achieved, they come back with a degree of MBBS. They just have to pass one exam to be qualified to do practice in India. That is how we are doing today. Our private universities, remember 80% of education in the country today, higher education in the country today is in the hands of private sector. Only 20% is in the government sector. And policy making is 100% in the government sector. In policy making, none of the private sector managers, private sector owners of the institutes are involved for policy decision-making support system. No. Who are there in the decision support system? Who are there in the committees? Only people who are already in the system in the government. Their thought process is about government. Their thought process is about getting funding from the government, from UGC. And that is how they have been prospering. Whereas the private institutes, their thought process is sustainability. They try to do the best, and that is how they have been prospering, or they have been able to do this. This point we have to really consider before going for establishing a digital university. It has already been said enough by the speakers that we are at a stage where we can run programs without inhibitions. If I want to run a program sitting at my home, I can take professors, engage professors across the world and can run programs. I should be allowed to do it. Why the digital university has to be done by the central government? Let it be, for example, we have MIT University. Let us somebody go and study our existing carrying capacity. Every organization, every project that we do in the industry, the first thing we do is we assess its carrying capacity, whether it's a machine or whether it's a river or whether it's a dam or anything that we establish, we carry out the carrying capacity. Let us do the carrying capacity analysis of each and every institute and university in the country. Remember, Dr. Sharma, please mark my words for that. The biggest damage that we have done to the education is 75% of our students do not want to go for technical education. And of those 75%, 90% of them are aiming to go for scoring 100% marks and get admissions in Stephens College, Shri Ram College of Commerce across the country. I mean, boys and girls from Kerala want to get admission in Shri Ram College of Commerce. And they are not interested. They are getting 100% marks in mathematics, but they would not go for engineering and medical sciences. So this is another aspect that we have to think of. Now coming to the point about university. The job of university is not to get already Professor Sharma has said that massification of degrees. The university should not be for massification of degrees. The boy has not to do with Delhi. He or she has not to travel to Nagpur, has not to travel to big cities. Let him or her be in the village and be enrolled with the university and work in the fields with their parents. What we have done over the years, Sharmaji, we advertise in the newspapers. All those fellows, Luhar, Kumhar, Nai, all these fellows who are doing skilled work in the villages, we started advertising. What are you doing in the village? Come, we'll give you degree, we'll give you fellowship. We gave them fellowship. We enrolled them in the university. When they came out with a degree, they don't have a job. Then they say, engage yourself with the village. Stupid thing we did. It's a time. New education policy has come. Policy you can make 1,000 times. But how do you implement it? So the university, in my opinion, is the one where you don't have to go to the place. Yes, you need to have some time free talking for discussion, social. Have it 1 month in 6 months. Okay, the next point I'm telling is university is शिक्षार्थ आइए सेवार्थ जाइए. हमने क्या बना दिया? हमारा क्राइटेरिया हो गया employability. How much is a placement? Now, what are we doing in the institutions and in the university? Even in IITs, the moment the boy or girl comes to second year, in the third year onwards, the emphasis is on finishing school, is on speaking. So Indians are the best speakers. Indians are the best auditors. Indians are the best finding fault. But Indians are the worst to establish themselves something by their own hands because of this education system. So I think we have to detach the university concept from employability, wealth generation to, we have seen during the COVID, what is most important is food, what is most important is health, and the most important is sustainability. Sharma ji, आप मुझे बताइए, has the government told the universities that make a syllabus to solve the problems of farmers? Has the government told the university make the syllabus to see that the water level in the ground is going down? In next 30 years, the amount of food that we'll require, our land will not be able to produce that. And our Yogi Raj from Chennai has to travel all over the world to tell people that your soil is getting degraded, and he is telling that your rivers are getting degraded. So this is about the university. The last point I want to tell, sir, बस last point है, 2 मिनट लूंगा, बाकी लोगों ने मेरे से बहुत ज्यादा टाइम लिया है, मैं केवल 2 मिनट लूंगा. In our existing system, आप pick up the calendar, academic calendar of any university. I studied before coming to this webinar. 6-month semester, only 1.5 months teaching. Only 1.5 months teaching. Rest 4.5 months practical, tutorial, practical, examination. I think detach the university teachers from examination. Create a university which is only taking exams. Only taking exams throughout the year. You have a syllabus, you take exam whichever way you take. Any boy or girl coming from any place, and the degree be given only from there. Let there be 4 digital universities, North, West, South, East, and all other institutions are free to take admissions. Let there be no restriction. This students to teacher ratio is absolutely bogus. This, in the name of the standard of education and credibility, having this accreditation is completely bogus system. I'm telling you based on my own experience. How the committees go and accredit institutions, I think it's worth somebody to go and do this. And there in the committee, again, we never engage the private institution teachers. We only engage select IITs, NITs, that's all. So this is what I wanted to say. I have many more points to say about the industry, connect between industry and, but I think.
Itna kharab to nahi hai. Only the other day I have returned after visiting a university on behalf of the UGC with a expert committee. Really speaking, but the point you raised is important. The purpose of education is not merely learning to know. UNESCO has rightly at the beginning of the 21st century stated that learning to know is fine, but you must also subscribe to learning to do, so that you are able to utilize the body and the reservoir of knowledge which you possess to do something good for yourself, to the society and to the mother nature and global community at large. But the third point, which UNESCO at that time emphasized, which most of the people have forgotten in the university, learning to live together in peace and harmony, which means serving, in fact, education to serve that aspect which ensures that you are part and parcel of a global community and you wish to live in peace and harmony and live as a human being. Having said this, let me also restate that we are talking of digital universities of the new age. And new age is defined by autonomy of learning. It is defined by learning whatever you like at any time from anywhere in the world. And that freedom to learn is in fact freedom infinite as far as the new age is concerned. But this is also a new age where you have opportunity to collaborate and cooperate with anyone and everyone, so long as that helps you to serve the cause for which you are here. But this age is also the age where you need to innovate infinite and excel on the strength of that innovation. And that's why I think the digital university need to capture its right trajectory by designing its education agenda from the point of view of innovation infinite, freedom to learn, but at the same time safeguarding credibility and quality and relevance, which have come up as major point. How do you go about doing it? There are several ways. You can design for excellence and relevance, provided you want to do that. And you can design it from the day one. Taj Mahal was created as a piece of excellence from the day it was unveiled, not that it attained excellence over a period of time. So you can design university for excellence from the day one as a digital university. It all up to those who are in the affairs of establishing the university. As far as I'm concerned, let me restate, I'm not here for massification of degrees. I'm here for massification of quality education. Let the people who provide education be called education providers, but not the university, till such time that the government of the day and people at large are convinced that the university has the substance to put the hastakshar on a piece of paper, which will remain hastakshar up to the last breath of an individual and thereafter. to certify the quality of education and its relevance for the purpose for which was imparted. Let me leave you at this point for the time being and come back later on, only to say that the children today understand the value and worth of self-learning. That is the power of new age. In fact, you have my grandchildren at the primary learning Python by his own effort. It is not part of syllabus of any school, but he want to learn it. He want to learn a lot about animation. He want to learn about new technology. And he's my chief technology advisor for the use of my notebook, or for that reason, the smartphone which I have. So that's the power. And we need to capture this opportunity in the form of the digital university to unveil that vast potential which is before us. I really want to put on table here that let's not be too much scared about digital university. Think about how to design or redesign it in a manner that it serves the purpose for which it has been conceived. Over to you, Gulshan Sarma.
Wonderful, wonderful. Dr. R.K. Kandalji had been very kind, and when he talked about the new education policy 2020, I'm taking two threads from there to move to the next speaker. We have moved from STEM to STEAM. That means the art has been brought in a very significant way, and that plays a very important role for all of us. And recently, there is a beautiful YouTube video we all should watch world over. It's a conversation between Rajiv Malhotra ji, who has come out with the book on artificial intelligence and future power, and Dr. V. Ramachandran. He is a neurosurgeon in USA. Both of them are discussing, and Dr. V. Ramachandran, whose grandfather helped Ambedkar ji when the constitution was made, he says, why humor is not a part of education? Why happiness is not a part of education? Why dance, music, singing, and all that should be integral part of education? I have been very poor in mathematics, but I learned the mathematics can be, it can be taken by someone the best possible way with music. Could I request Mr. Mohit Soni, the CEO, Media Entertainment Skill Council? They are doing excellent job. They've gone to CBSE, they've gone to Navodaya Vidyalaya, they've gone to Kendriya Vidyalaya, they've gone to army establishments, they've gone everywhere. And I personally feel that today children need to be happy, because otherwise India will become the diabetic capital of the world. Too much of pressure. Somebody mentioned about quota, going for the coaching. There might have been a time when Professor J.S. Rajput sir and our time, when I'm also touching, it was a shame if somebody came to know that I have gone for the extra class. But today it's a privilege. My child has gone for such and such coaching to such and such place. So I'm going to say something that is different. Let's release the pressure. Let's get into different arena. The technology with digital university, can media entertainment, and why not media entertainment should be the integral part of our education ecosystem, where it is all around laughter, happiness, singing, dancing, music, and everybody is stimulated way enjoying education. With these words, Mr. Mohit Soni.
Thank you, Gulshanji. And am I audible properly?
Yeah, it's perfectly fine.
Thank you.
Please.
Thank you, Gulshanji, for inviting me here, and love the topic today of digital university, and really wonderful to hear all the speakers so far. Dr. Sharma, I really could not come out of the line which you mentioned about remembering the song, and I feel today content is the king, and we all know when we are talking about digital university, the habit of inculcating digital content is already getting built in ourselves. We human beings are the most curious animals on the planet. We have learned from shifting from a black and white mobile phone to an Android device or an Apple device today, and are enjoying it wonderfully. I see technology has been advancing, and that's one big area where it will continue. As a Media and Entertainment Sector Skill Council, we have seen humongous approach which has changed over the last 2 years with this impact of COVID coming in. So while COVID may have had its own negatives, but the positive is that everybody started getting onto a Zoom or to a WebEx. The learning shifted completely. And I think this has some ways brought in a habit of learning digitally at your own convenience, at your own pace. I remember in 2010, 2011, we did an experiment in Kota by offering the Kota students a tablet and make them learn through that tablet the IIT JEEs and the other content, which probably could have been the most difficult nuts to crack in that point of time, with exciting videos, engaging content, and with best of the experts and the mentors which could be possible. That point of time, tablet was a very, very new concept, and it was a very difficult concept to sell. So when we spoke to the students in Kota, we used to tell them, hey, you can watch your movie on this. You can access internet on this. And when we used to meet the parent, we used to say he will be able to do a lot of self-study, a lot of self-paced learning on this. And I think that became a revolution. Today, we have to understand that one side, when we're talking about digital university, the habit of getting somebody prepared to incorporate and inherit that content also has to be built in. And I think that could come in a very, very differential format of making every content a movie. You know, you have to make it more storyline. You have to make it more creative. You have to make it more engaging. You have to make it immersive. And that is where the next chain of trainers, the mentors, need not just to be subject matter experts. They need to be very good actors. They need to be very good presenters. And I think this is one habit which as a council we wish to now inculcate. And that is the reason the new qualifications which we are developing now are not going to be just specified to a subject matter expert here. It will also be looking at developing an overall personality of somebody who has been a trainer, who has been a mentor, and see that they could be channelized to deliver the kind of the content which cannot be boring, which can be engaging, which cannot be, anyways felt that I am attending a class, but it could be that I am a part of this session. And using the technology, whether it is AR, VR, whether it is AI, or whether any of the formats, that will simply be one of the other formats to deliver. Today, there is content by choice, and I strongly believe that it should be learning by choice. So while we become the aggregators of content across the globe, we should be able to offer these Indian students and the students globally the opportunity to choose the best content, the best trainer, and the best mentor which they feel they could be able to learn through. And I think this will change the entire mechanism of learning. Because the moment you are engaging a student who's interested and keen to learn something, trust me, all of your assessments, all of your mechanism of testing will not be that much required. They may be required to grant a degree, they may be required to grant a certification, but when self-learning comes in and it becomes a motivation for somebody to grab knowledge, experience, and exposure, I think most of these things will be anyway sorted out. So I believe that today, while we're talking about this, maybe 10 years later from now, we may be talking about a different exposure on how we can further structure the digital universities and make them more futuristic. So I think, Gulshanji, it is a very, very valid topic at this point of time, and I really found it very exciting and enabling us to develop something very, very interactive and very new for the entire genre to look at. It's been a great learning. Thank you, Gulshanji, for making me a part of this wonderful conversation, and I would love to contribute as much as I can from the council's perspective.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Such a pleasure to hear, such a pleasure to have your views. Two things which you have mentioned, something very important, and you can work with Professor S.S. Patnaik also very closely, I'm telling you, because he's doing a great job. And then you can be closely working with Dr. Nageshwar Rao also, when he made a mention from the IGNOU. I personally feel the time has come now. You told content is the king. That is something very important. And secondly, I just heard the other day, Anita Karwalji, the Secretary School Education, Government of India, the Ministry of Education. And she was telling in that webinar that storytelling now to be switched over to graphic novels. And Mohitji, your Sector Skill Council being so creative and so dynamic. And today when Dr. Raj Vedam is joining, who's an authority all the way, and I learned so much from him and picked up so much from him on the technology. And my another advisor, who is basically bringing the consortium of the entire United States together, the time has come. Media Entertainment Sector Skill Council has to work very closely with the schools, with the colleges, with the technical institutions, with the ITIs, with the polytechnics, and of course with the other verticals what we have got in education ecosystem. And in digital university, I would say I have done it. That's why I'm sharing it with you. I have done it. Being a soldier early in the morning in the finishing school, When the tribal students were coming from the 8 northeastern states, there used to be a patriotic song to bring national integration. And that's what Professor P.B. Sharma was also telling earlier. The movies which were being made, they had such a rich contents. They had such a beautiful melodies and songs you remember for years together. You have got a very deep role to play with the education ecosystem. Rather, I feel it should be integral part of the complete education ecosystem. Why it should be taken separately, like domestic tourism, heritage tourism, cultural tourism, the music tourism, art tourism, culture tourism. You can do wonders on that.
Sure, Gushenji. And I see a lot of scope for, probably widening up the scope of what we have been doing at the council. And I look forward to work closely with all the allied institutions here. Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful. With these words, while thanking Mr. Mohit Soni, let me go to United States all the way. They had tremendous patience because I wanted to, go in a way that where they get the inputs from India and then they do the packaging and they give what exactly India needs. But Raj Vedamji, if you permit me, before I bring you in, I would just show a little bit, so that the world knows about it. And all of us, we know Dr. Raj Kumar Vedam, the senior principal engineer at the AVEVA, little better from the Texas. When you think from algorithm and numerical tinkering to creating products, there are a couple of things when we are talking about it. All technology listed over here. I'm sharing this slide. You all can go through. Let's hear Dr. Raj Vedamji.
Thank you, Dr. Gulshan Sharma. It's a real pleasure to come here. My pranams to all the esteemed guests over here. I listened with great interest to the comments that everybody has made so far. And I noted down some points, for example, starting with Professor Sharma, who emphasized that the digital university should be the answer to access, quality, and relevance. And that was a theme that I saw with almost every speaker. When Dr. J.S. Rajput, who again brought about the important points of participation, need access, need quality, need credibility, need acceptability, need pace of change, and need good availability of faculty. All absolutely relevant factors you want to come and make the best content over there. And Dr. Nageshwar Rao, who again brought about the issue of credibility and quality, and also talked about how one might go about in terms of actually implementing this digital university. 3 approaches over there, where he first talked about start fresh, get the help of tech university, start all over, something clean slate and all new, or go with this collaboration consortium approach, or perhaps do a pilot project, learn from that, and maybe do the best we can. Excellent points over there. And I also heard Dr. Anita Dev, who brought about the issue of critical thinking, the need for critical thinking, quality, credibility for new skills, how to allow existing graduate to retool, to try to upgrade their skills, stay relevant, continuing education, rescaling to larger enrollments. And also the issues about how do you motivate students? How do you keep students engaged with the content and have a good graduation rate? And also things like connectivity. How do you ensure that this connectivity that is perhaps democratic throughout the country, how do you ensure that? And the use of immersive education with AI, VR, adaptive learning, and these issues. And also the very important issue of how do we handle virtual labs if you're dealing with STEM education, biology, and engineering, and these kind of things. How exactly can we handle these things with simulations? And very, very important issue over there. Heard Dr. Professor Patnaik, who brought in some excellent points over there in connectivity and pointed out that future technologies are there in terms of holograms, in terms of 6G, and many other technologies are coming. And so a digital university need not be locked into today's technologies, but needs to be adaptive to think about the future. Excellent one. And how for creating content to bring in expert champion professors, empower them with tools. So professor need not worry about the technology and how to create this content. Institutes like Professor Patnaik said can enable them, empower them with the best-in-class tools and technology to create that content, and also the delivery, a good anchor to make sure that there's good impact. Excellent points, including the very important need for standardization. You need standardization, you need accreditation. Otherwise, how exactly can we take the courses and assure some quality out there? And Dr. Kandal, who brought in the importance to deconstruct what university means today, so that we get a proper motivation to go in for a digital university. He pointed out how there is demand for elite institutions today, brick and mortar institutions, but there is falling enrollment in rural areas. He pointed out that, and also pointed out that 75% of the students prefer non-STEM kind of areas. And he lamented that is our education system training people to solve the big problems of today? Should we not be tuned to things like soil acidity or water or climate change issues? Are we even gearing them towards that, or just giving them a set of skills to find a job in the workplace? And he brought about an excellent point to detach teachers from examinations. Yes, that burden should not be borne by content creators and researchers. Perhaps a separate institution entirely can take care of accreditation, quality, and advancement, and those kinds of things. Very, very good points there. And finally, Sri Mohit Soniji, who brought about this classic line, content is king, to have compelling content. Like Professor Sharma mentioned initially, when you see a movie, it is a stickiness to it. And how do you ensure that stickiness in content? And like Gulshan Sharmaji said, why should learning not be happy? There should be an element of joy and wanting to learn over here. So I think by listening to these, I get this common set of ideas that first, infrastructure. How can you afford the devices broadband? Government needs to do something so that broadband reaches all corners of the country and students have access to the devices to make this happen. It is positive that we can reach into rural areas, increase the enrollment, and to offer young to adult education. Maybe age should not be a barrier. Maybe somebody who's got through one career up to the age of 30 thinks this is not for me, I'd like to change to something else, should be able to learn, ramp up, and get a new job. So these are the kind of empowerings that we can do with digital university. And the content itself, curriculum should be selected very carefully, for example, in areas like engineering, medicine, biological areas, and what would you modify to enable digital instruction? So that is one issue. Then should content be designed for learning? Somebody brought up this point. Should it be brought up for learning or to meet a demand in the marketplace? If you get content to meet some demand, let's say in Java or .NET and these kind of things, you've only enabled that person to survive in the workplace out there. What about innovation? Where does that come in? So one's got to think about that. How exactly can we design for innovative minds and so on? And the other one, tuning content for individual learning. So I think Anita Dev ji brought this issue. Using of AI, animation, AR, AI, VR, customized learning. If somebody is a fast learner, for example, can the content, the AI content that decides a course, can it make the course go faster for that person? And if somebody is a slow learner, can the AI content automatically tune that course pace so that it is matched and customized to the learning of that individual? So that's excellent one. So there's potential for customized education. Then a very important point which nobody brought up, but can mother tongue be used as a medium of education? English is very constraining for most of our country. So can we have education in mother tongue? Retaining students and motivating learning. I think we have several people who brought it up. How to prevent dropouts. Perhaps things like alerts. One signs on for a course, you sign on to the fact that we can send you alerts to your phone, send you alerts to your computer, send you alerts to your email, maybe bug you so much asking you to come back. This ideally should not be necessary if learning is a joy. So if we design learning to be a joy, this should not be necessary, but that extra motivation, reminding you that, hey, there's a task you're not done. Maybe you should do that. So the other one that somebody brought up is a hybrid model. If there is a difficulty in teaching instruction content digitally, like digital labs or AI, VR, can we think of a hybrid model? For example, can capacity be used at existing degree colleges, engineering colleges, medical colleges, so that in the evening hours, the remote learners can perhaps go to the place closest to them and ramp up on the practicals. Obviously, one will have to think about faculty and so on. But then one need not be constrained by practical facilities if in the future simulation technologies, like Dr. Patnaik said, with holograms and other things, you're actually there witnessing a digital dissection where there could be a professor doing a dissection there and you're there watching each and everything stage by stage. So maybe these future technology will free us from having to be at a practical location. And today in my company, for example, we have AI and VR tools so that you wear these gloves, you're immersed and you can observe engineering diagrams and you can observe all kinds of utilities. This technology is there today. And in India, in some of the oil and gas companies, these technologies are there today. Can these be brought into education? So that is an excellent issue over there. Then informal learning. The fact that today, if you force people into a certain curriculum and there is no relevance given to the past knowledge, that can be a little demotivating and deracinating. If somebody has come with a certain set of skills from the childhood, maybe observing their parents or maybe the skill they had in a workshop working and so on, can that informal learning be folded into a self-guided learning program? So freeing up people to do those things would be amazing. Then the fact that you could have a non-traditional faculty. Should faculty also be constrained by certification? If we say that I'll only take professors from this IIT or that IISc or so on and so forth, you're constraining yourself. These people may be outstanding in their research, but maybe the delivery is not the best of them. So you might have non-traditional faculty you could have access to from any parts of the world. And the need for rapid content creation. So we know technology is changing at a very, very, very rapid pace. DU, Digital University, does give the scope so that content can constantly keep pace with this. And so the learning is more immersive and so on. And there is a need for hard skills and soft skills. I think Dr. Patnaik brought up that point where with the NEP policy and the need to bring in soft skills, there should be some kind of a standard way of delivering some of these things. And maybe Digital University is the place where some of these soft skills can be delivered. In addition, I believe that somebody brought up the need to deconstruct what a university is. If we don't ground our children in the ethos of the country, what is the point of this learning? Today, we have so much of deracination in our students who cannot connect with the culture and the identity of the country. So there is strong need to make learning relevant and see that the ethos and the learning aspect of our culture. India has always been a knowledge-based society, but that doesn't come out in our social sciences learning. So it's necessary to bring in this aspect of learning, that to have identity with identification with our identity, that we are a culture of knowledge seekers. That should come out with soft skills and so on. And somebody brought up the need for interactions and social skill development. Remote learning does not give scope for personality development. How would we ensure that our students are not introverted geniuses, but they're able to go out there, collaboratively create content? So digital university, I guess the solution would be digital spaces and so on, where people can interact. But once again, it is something like our Facebooks and Twitters and Instagrams of today, where it is not personal. You think that you are in an immersive environment, but it's not personal. So maybe some kind of hybrid model would be necessary, that in addition to the digital learning, maybe there are places. For example, in various centers in India, can we envision open buildings? Open buildings is like open office. Anybody comes and there are a lot of facilities over there. So the person sitting next to you with his VR gear is learning social sciences. The next fellow is learning engineering. The next fellow is learning medicine. So this is the kind of environment which you have in a physical locality, but open course. Everybody's learning whatever they want. But there's scope for physical interaction now between them, including cross-pollination of ideas, because each one is learning a different skill. So you're bringing in different perspectives. So maybe this need for innovation, this need for social skills, everything can come with a hybrid model. Then I think we covered that. And finally, I think these kind of courses, obviously, If we were to offer it in a brick and mortar university, there are some overhead costs that are passed on to the student and can go to several lakhs of rupees to do professional courses. With these digital courses, probably these things are close to next to free. But then certification can perhaps involve some kind of a cost so that the students know that there's a value to doing these things. So you have a certification cost and so on. I think there is also concern whether digital courses would be seen on par with brick and mortar universities. Would the graduates of these universities be seen the same as brick and mortar universities? Well, in the workplace where I am today, one doesn't care. If I were to interview a candidate for a job, I'm looking at the skill set that he has. I personally would not look at pedigree. Have you come from MIT or Harvard or some such places? Well, though that is a good starting point, but perhaps see what can you do. A skill-based interview, maybe to see demonstrate whether they can do a certain task. But this is perhaps only in technology. You see this happening. It has freed you up from pedigree into what do you really know. So if such a culture can be encouraged within the digital courses environment also, then perhaps the students of these courses will not be second-class employees in places where they need these kind of skills. So Gulshan Sharmaji, excellent interaction. So those are some of the points that I have taken down, and I hope they are of value.
Very well summed up, but let it also be kept on the plate that we are not looking at digital university as the solution of all evils in higher education. We are looking at it as a great opportunity to do many good things which we could not do, and even take strides into areas where education unleashes that power of connectivity and power of technology and power of mind to millions more. But we are not looking at digital university to be solution of all evils. You know, the meaning and purpose of university cannot be misunderstood. The universities are in the business of creating future-ready professionals, even professionals who would be able to create the bright future, not only for themselves, but for the humanity. They're also in the business of creating new knowledge and new technologies and unleash the power of innovation within the campuses or workplaces from where innovation takes place. And therefore, digital university, we are not looking at solution for all the evils at the moment, but surely we are looking at it as a welcome feature to enhance our capability of imparting quality education to millions more. But what I said in the beginning cannot be lost ground, because unless you unleash the power of digital education at the school level, thinking of building the minarets of digital university alone would not really suffice to serve the condition of imparting quality higher education for millions more. I'm also of the opinion that the massification of higher education or autonomy of learning does not confer the right of massification of degrees or award of the degrees by the university. Universities are a very special set of, you can say, organization whose job is to certify that the quality of education is right and relevant to the society. And this task cannot be left merely for desire. And therefore, the role of regulators and regulations, in my opinion, would remain. Perhaps it become more stringent now that the appetite for learning from anywhere and everywhere and at whatever pace you want, design your own degrees, of course, have become now a reality. And therefore, the regulation has to be rethought about. How do we go about regulating the quality of education in the new digital space which we are creating? With these words, I think I must thank you, Gulshan Sharmaji, for giving me this support. Tomorrow is a working day. I will have to prepare my mind to unleash the power of vice chancellorship in the university where I'm currently employed. But I'm sure very good points have come up in the discussion, and we will form a very important basis of looking at digital university with a great hope. Thank you.
Professor Vivek Shankar Natarajanji, we will be having you as the final closing remarks. But before that, let me get back to Dr. Raj Vedamji. There's something known as communication. There's something known as connecting. And it always happens. And Nido Cuban, who is the highest paid motivational speaker, I attended 3 of his programs while teaching in America. And he says, it is no more communication, it is connecting. When you were giving the complete run of the program of today, it was getting connected. Each and every point you got connected with us. And finally, what comes over here is the great persuasion which me and Professor Vivek Shankar Natarajan, our advisor in US, had taken together. We worked out a strategy. We have taken a commitment because people keep telling me, yours is the chamber which deals only with the NRIs, Indian diaspora, people those have gone abroad. So what do you have? I said, get their knowledge, get their expertise, get their research, get cultural exchange, get some student exchange, get some faculty exchange, invite them whatever we can do. There can be a number of ways of partnership in the digital university, which we can work out together. So ladies and gentlemen, before we close today's session, I would be going to Professor Vivek Shankar Natarajan, our advisor in the United States, and write a brief over here because it's on the YouTube. I need not to read. He is looking after Center for Innovation, Entrepreneurship, and he's a professor of marketing at the Lamar University. And when you see in Texas, great person, great soul. And during this pandemic, 2 years, every Sunday he made sure, including Dr. Raj Vedamji, they all had come and we maintained the forum. Today, for the first time, Sunday is clubbing our Indian vice chancellors, professors, experts with NRIs. Sunday we have been dedicating to non-resident Indians. So I think digital university, somewhere the foundation we are trying to lay from our side. Professor Vivek Shankar Natarajanji, your closing remarks, and you always keep telling me social entrepreneurship is very important. And you have been telling me in India, 2 suggestions which you gave me last time. Why not the CSR, or the 2% which corporate has to spend for next 5 years should be spent for education sector in India. Number 2, most of the NRIs, when they come to their villages, their rural areas, for their parents, for their grandparents' names, they do something. Why not they should establish a chair in Professor S.S. Patnaik's institution? Instead of just spending money on certain artificial facets, it's better to develop the human resource, research, innovation, collaboration, creativity, what all we can bring together. With these words, Professor Vivek Shankar Natarajan from Texas, Lamar University.
Namaste. Om Vagarta Vivasapruto Vagarta Pratipatye Jagatah Pitaro Vande Parvati Parameshwara Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwara Guru Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. मंच में उपस्थित सारे जो महान भाव हैं सबको मेरा नमस्कार। गुलशन जी, ये मेरा सौभाग्य है कि इतने भारत के विद्या क्षेत्र के जो महान हस्तियां हैं उनके साथ एक साथ बैठ के मुझे बात करने का आपने सुनहरा मौका दिया है। आई एम सो ग्रेटफुल टू यू सर। So Paul Romer of Stanford says a crisis is a terrible thing to waste, and last 2 years with the COVID crisis, everybody was thinking very negative things, but only a visionary, only a yogi with a vision of nation building, the caliber of our Honorable Prime Minister, can think, how do we take the nation forward? So he started with the new education policy, and then we had the whole digital thing being put to use. And then we have seen wonderful things happen in the startup and the fintech space, digital inclusion, all that has been, all his vision has paid off. But now he's thinking the next, which is digital university. So I think there is a lot riding here. In fact, one of the things, elegy in a court, in a country churchyard. This is a very, very famous poem. Basically, it says that many a flower is born to blush unseen and waste its sweetness on the desert air. This is by Thomas Gray. And but basically, we've seen this, especially amplified by the Ukraine crisis. We saw a lot of Indian students who had to go abroad for education for the simple reason the capacity to educate them was not available. They were spending foreign exchange and going, and it was also a national security problem. It was a humanitarian crisis. Our government had to spend a lot of time evacuating them. So maybe, in this crisis, if we had something like a digital university to educate more people without having any worry about the constraints in terms of infrastructure, could some of these problems have been avoided? Maybe not, but let's look into the future. So I just want to say, I'm going to make my observations. I know I'm the last speaker and I've already got the mandate. I saw Professor Sharma says he has to sign off because he has a meeting tomorrow. It's Monday morning tomorrow. We are still in Sunday mode. So I'll be very brief. There are multiple challenges, especially this coming out of the US education. You know, last 2008 was the housing crisis, mortgage crisis. The next crisis that people project could be the student loan. Student debt is ballooning. You know, nowhere else can a 17-year-old get a loan for $100,000 except for student loans. And some of these degrees, do they even pay? I don't know. It's getting harder. They don't pay. So there is already a study that's talk about which majors pay and which don't. And at least I'm in a area of business schools, the degrees have value, but some of the degrees, you know, it doesn't have any job prospects. So you're wasting a lot of money, and maybe you have to get humanitarian skills. I get all that, but some of the universities are not up to par there. So that's a challenge. They have to reskill, retool their degree programs. Enrollments are going to go down. There have been baby boomers. They're saying 2025 will be when we'll have enrollment crises, and which means the universities may not be able to have the enrollment to sustain their financial operation. So all of these things have been already happening. Last 2 years, more schools have gone digital. The other thing people are also saying, we have seen the great resignation happen in the US, it's playing out in other countries. People are also saying, is there value in working? What's the value in doing some of these things? And what's the value of education? Do I need to go 4 years and spend time in a dorm? Can I not doing? So opportunity cost is also increasing. And last but not the least, don't confuse education with job skills. Micro credentials are becoming more important. Industries like, companies are saying, hey, we will give you the training and you don't need a college degree. Come to us and we will train you out. That is happening. So all of this is the context. Now, where is digital coming in my opinion? I started thinking from a student side. I heard a lot of deliberations. Not many, I didn't see a lot of things come out from the student or the learner perspective. I take that perspective. I've been teaching online for the last 10 years. I was one of the first people to start teaching online in my university. So for 10 years, I've been doing this. I've developed about 10 digital courses and delivered about 150 strong classroom courses, and fairly been successful. So with that experience, I speak. So let me go back to our own Indian wisdom. Swami Chinmayananda, who created a wonderful Balvihar curriculum, he says, children, and this can be applied, when you use the word children, you can substitute students. Children are not vessels to be filled with water. They are lamps to be lit. In other words, I kind of take it, I argue in another way. There is nothing to be taught. There's everything to be learned. And so, especially in the context of digital universities, we should move away from being lecture-centric to becoming more learner-centric. Can we catalyze the learning? In fact, even in the Upanishads, the student is supposed to go to the teacher with samit, which means sticks, and say, light the lamp, fire of, the lamp or the fire of knowledge in me. That is the whole idea of thing. And this very well suits the digital context because it's all about learning. So let me give you the context. The context is there are more non-traditional learners. I gave you the example. The existing infrastructure probably serves only 5 to 10% of the human capital that is available in the nation. So rest of them are forced to go abroad, or they're forced to get undereducated. So we need that, especially in India, which is going to have a young population. Rural learners are also equally interested to move up the value chain in terms of knowledge, becoming knowledge workers. How do we satisfy them? So especially in rural, when you say rural, it's also the non-English speaking population. Knowledge is just not a one shot. It's becoming lifelong learning, reskilling and upskilling. We talked about it. Another thing that's very passionate, a country like India, which has had a tradition of learning, has not been well represented in academia. People like Rajiv Malhotra have talked about it. The version of history from the Indian standpoint is yet to be written much more, and our people are not aware of it. Just imagine one movie, how much revolution it's causing in the last 1 week. So there is much more stories to be told, much more things we have to learn. Digital universities can afford the space to do that. Cartels have kept away Indian knowledge systems to be not shown. And I think digital university gives you that platform. And so Indic knowledge systems, we are very passionate about yoga and Ayurveda. But now we can disseminate it to the world on our terms, Indic terms. That's the power of digital university. So the Vishwaguru, the Atmanirbhar Bharat we are talking about, digital university gives you a platform to do that. Previously, we had to go through the Harvards and the Stanfords. Maybe we can create our own platform. The other thing I'm very particular about, training the knowledge workers of tomorrow, especially in our own specific context. We have identified teacher training is very important. And such for teacher training, imagine the power of digital university. We can train so many teachers for India and abroad at a very, very low cost. Just not teacher training. It could be any service industry vertical that we have identified. They need training. But if you have to do it in a more bread and butter way, in a more brick and mortar way, it's going to be very expensive. Digital allows you to scale up without much efforts. And I know we are very passionate about this. We'll come back to these topics over and over again. From a supply side, I think a lot of things have been identified. I have identified about 7 or 8 things. Broadband and infrastructure is needed, and I think we are moving forward very well on that. But can there be other models of economy? Can there be a more cost-sharing model? Can there be better models economically to allow? So like a software as a service, broadband as a service, can we use more economical options for students and teachers? The other thing is India is leapfrogged in terms of the mobile revolution. So dunya apne mutti mein hai. How can we give the education? Through the mobile phones. Because a lot of it has been configured at the PC level, but or now the tablet level, but can we do it to the mobile? Because that's where the penetration rate is the highest in India, especially in rural and other rural areas. And again, non-native platforms, non-native English platforms. A lot of Edtech activities happening, as you rightly observed, after US and China, but in a more granular way, can it move to more index platforms and non-native platforms? Of course, regulatory compliance is important, and I think we had a lot of deliberations on that, given the number of experienced vice chancellors today on the platform. Couple of issues. How do we transfer credits? That's going to be a very important thing. The more liquidity we have in terms of credit transfers, that will make of these digital universities more successful, because at the end of the day, we want to be able to take. So liquidity of credits is important. Role of new technologies like blockchain in terms of helping with authenticity is important. And last but not, we had a lot of talk about AI, but I'm a marketing guy, and to me, AI is all about understanding the uniqueness, the learning style of every student. Can we create customized learning packages for students? That's where AI can help. In other words, so everybody has a different lamp to be lit. It's a very, very different. So that humane approach, that customized approach of knowledge delivery and learning flexibility that's where AI can really help, because you can learn from their data. And and I think all of this holds immense promise. And so for us, especially from the Indic system, time is a circular thing. So this is a good point in time. We are going to be approaching Ugadi Varsh Pratipada in the next 10-15 days. So very, very topical that we have taken up this topic of with Holi. It's very like Holi. It was a very colorful topic. Digital university is going to be very colorful, and I think it will portend the dawn of a good education system in India. That is Bharat. With that, sir, thank you for allowing me, giving me a chance to speak and share the platform. Is such a wonderful, collection of distinguished educationists, and my good friend Raj Vedam, Jayesh Rajput. They are all doing wonderful work in Indic knowledge systems, especially. And I think in that area, I really see digital university can play a major role. So with that, sir, sarve bhavantu sukinaha, sarve santu niramayaha, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschid dukkha bhag bhavet. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Vivek Shankar Natarajanji. It was wonderful. Thank you very much. Because always it's remarkable. You put in a lot of efforts, and I'm deeply grateful to Dr. Raj Vedamji also. I wish to do something with the entire team which we have built up today. Before we close today's session, I just wish to share one slide with the global audience, because more than 1,000 people are waiting. What exactly is there in the kitty? What are the recommendations from our chamber, ICSI? And that's to my brothers abroad as well, in the different countries, and all educational institutions in India, and particularly to the Ministry of Education, Government of India, and all verticals like UGC, AICT, NCRT, NIPA, National Council for Teacher Education. Now, digital education and education services exports. There are lots of countries where the population is diminishing and they do not have the people to take on. This is a time for India to take care of its large population, particularly our youth, and how to overcome these challenges. First challenge and the first, the barrier we have got, our quantity, a large population which we have to take care of. Everybody cannot be given the same pill. It has to be given according to the place, region, area, requirement. So you cannot have a common curriculum or a module. It has to be tailor-made, befitting, because the culture is also to be preserved and to be displayed and to be taken forward, because UNESCO has conveyed some of the languages which are, tribal languages will disappear after some time if they are not exhibited properly. Second part, our quality. Skilling part is very important, which we have to see, and we got to meet international standards over there. That means our children to be acceptable abroad in different countries. We require speed. We have to move on a fast track. There is nothing else which can help us at this point of time than to be adopting the technology and the digital technology and all the modules and whatever modes and means available with the technology. We should take them in the best possible way. Challenge of equity, need-based education, and why education should not be relevant to my day-to-day life, my living. Why are we teaching so much which doesn't have anything to do? And by the time we'll pass out, the World Economic Forum conveys your subject may not remain, your contents may not remain even relevant. So that is something very important. So sustainable development goals, which we have got the agenda of 17 of them, I think they cover the entire ecosystem of our day-to-day life. Then comes sustainability, making education relevant. And finally, realizing the untapped soft power of India through education, through skills, through youth, and finally, through services exports. That is very important. We have been talking in education, whenever we talk about education vertical, everybody talks about look towards Finland, look towards Korea, look towards Singapore, look towards other places. I'm going to give from the chamber today a new country, a new area, a new place. And I request all the audience, those are watching this particular program live, please go through on the YouTube one video. The title is How India Can Become Rich by Adopting the Ireland Education Model. This is how India can become rich by adopting the Ireland education model. We have not noticed, we have not seen. This has been sent to me from the Ireland. In 1990, everybody was leaving that country. And what revolution they have done with education. The only thing is with education, we need patience, we need time, we need speed, we need so much of variations which we have to take into consideration, because education doesn't give you a dividend overnight. It cannot show you results in one day. So thereby, ladies and gentlemen, before we close today's session, we would like to convey our deep gratitudes and thanks to all our wonderful participants and all our wonderful speakers, particularly people those have joined us from the different countries, different places, until end. Nobody else, you require one more batsman to be with you to take the final run to win. And I have got with me Professor S.S. Patnaik, but of course, another person has also joined, and finally we should win the match. Dr. R.K. Kandalji is also here with me. We should take the vision in a very positive way. Let's put in our best of efforts. There is no more competition, it's a collaboration. Corporate should be an integral part of the education ecosystem. The notification which has just come that now the corporate will also be involved along with the educators, and a couple of other announcements which have been done. I think they are remarkable. We are on the right track. We are moving in the right direction. The only thing is we got to catch on speed. Otherwise, we'll be missing the boat what Rajiv Malhotra also tells in his book, that we are already late by 10 years, how we are going to adopt technology in education and how this digital university can be the game changer. With these words, ladies and gentlemen, world over, it's a green morning, it's a green afternoon, it's a green evening. Dr. R.K. Kandalji has put the greenery right behind him, and I have got Professor S.S. Patnaik also, the director knitter, to support me till end. Thank you very much for being a part of it. Green morning, green afternoon, green evening. Professor Vivek Shankar